Hello, and welcome to the Unmasking Effect, a show where we dive deep into stories of reinvention, resilience, and success. Today, I'm beyond excited to introduce a truly remarkable guest, one who embodies all that and more, Kim Zoller. Kim is an accomplished author of multiple books, the founder of ID360 Inc., and a powerhouse in the leadership, training, and development field. She's not just great at what she does, she is the best. What makes Kim's journey so inspiring is her tenacity. She faced major challenges head on and has not only overcome them, but used them as a fuel to become a leader in her industry. I wanted to have her on because her story is a testament to what's possible when we commit to reinvention and growth. In today's conversation, we'll explore how Kim navigated and overcame her biggest challenges, the principles of leadership and growth that she's honed over the years, and her advice for anyone looking to reinvent themselves and thrive. So whether you're looking to make a change in your life or simply need some inspiration, this episode is for you. Let's dive in. Tell me what you're into. Like, what are you really passionate about?
My personal stuff is really focused on living in joy. That is I literally wake up and say to myself, what can I do to live in joy today? And how can I, when I don't feel the joy and I feel the disconnect, I know that I'm not in alignment. So it could be a conversation I have with someone. All of a sudden I'll have a feeling and I'll be like, there's something going on here. And I have to just figure out why am I taking on someone's stuff? Why am I taking things in? So really the work that I've been doing, Ike, is for many, many years, besides the growth, because this is what I do for a living, right? It's like, I am all into growth and helping leaders grow. And I really thought that I was doing the work. And then I had a little breakdown. You know, I had a few things happen in my life that created a major drop for me. And one was my dad died, and he was a major part of my life. Not my real father, but basically my father, my real father, who wasn't my biological father from the time I was 4. So he died. I have 2 boys, and they moved from America to another country, and they did both subsequently decided that they were going to stay there. And then I had a big breakup with someone, and interestingly enough, like, the breakup was right. Like, it should not, it was not meant to be in my life. And I truly, truly know that. But what happened is that, it's like trauma has layering effects, and something happens and you think it's that thing. And I have to tell you, just because of the work that I do, I woke up and I felt like I literally couldn't get out of bed and felt like I was in a fishbowl. And I said, and like the world is swimming around me. And I was like, don't they know that it's so, oh my God, that feeling of just like, it's so intense in your head. And don't they see like what pain I'm in? That's how I equated. Like, I'm in this fishbowl, I'm looking outside, and everyone's kind of like functioning. And in that world, I'm totally functioning like no one would know. But inside, I'm like completely in the freaking fishbowl going, God, it's so, where do I go? Anyway, so I literally woke up one morning and I said, you know the work, you know what to do, so do it. And I started getting into mindfulness. The funny thing is, in college, when meditation was not even a thing, I was doing it, but I hadn't done it consistently. So anyway, I started meditating a lot, and I can tell you about that journey.
But Kim, just tell me a little bit more about this fishbowl, though. It sounds very familiar.
Yeah, the fishbowl. It's a very, surreal experience, especially for someone who, like, I'm very much a part of the world, in the sense that I'm very open. I'm very extroverted. I'm very like in the conversation. I love people, and all of a sudden to feel like, and it was really all of a sudden, it was like a crash. So, to the point of like walking into a room and noticing things around me, and it's all in slow motion, and then feeling like I needed to like take something to calm down. Like, oh my God, what can I get to, like, like, is there a Valium? And I'm not like a drug taker. So, but that feeling, you know, and I did, like, I really, I did anything I could to get away from that feeling. I would get on an airplane, and I would, in which I was traveling a ton, and I'd get on the airplane and people were talking, everything's going on around me. And I'm like, are they saying something? Do they get what's happening in the world? Do they understand what's going on inside of me? What happens if it's going on inside of other people? These were just the thoughts as people were, blah, 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 do you want a drink? It just,
There's this unconsciousness that was happening, and
yeah,
you were just observing what was going on and trying to
all the
figure it
time,
out. Yeah.
all the time. And
So,
yeah.
so do you feel like what happened with your dad, your son's moving, like everything that was happening, was it like compounding? Is that
Yeah.
what it felt like?
Yeah. So basically I didn't, here's the thing. Like, I didn't even realize that. I luckily had like a really, really good therapist who I had been going to for years. And I'm not a person who does things out of reaction. I really, really believe in just constant, like, what am I doing in my brain? What am I doing to rewire my brain? If there is something, like, if there's a pattern, like Tony says, if there's a pattern, figure out the pattern. So I'm constantly trying to figure those things out. So luckily I had this amazing relationship with her for many years. And she basically said, like, I called her, out of nowhere. I'm like, Linda, we need to meet. And then, she basically said, Kim, it's just so obvious. It's because it really had nothing to do with like the final straw kind of thing. It really had to do with major men in my life going away. It could have been people. It doesn't necessarily have to do with men. It's just that they are all men,
Right.
my children included. And it was for some reason, it brought back a lot of things, and it brought up a lot of things. And you know what? It was the best thing that could have happened to me.
Why is that?
Oh my God. It was the beginning of a journey for the last 6 years. It's been like 5, 6 years, 6 years. I cannot even tell you, like, the journey of the last 6 years of finding myself, of being myself, of figuring out who I am in this world. And then, we attract things into our lives, right? So I was with a client who I was coaching, a big executive for a very large company. And he said to me, Kim, what's up with you today? And I said, nothing, all is good. And he's like, you're full of it. What's up? I said, I just, some things happened. I didn't even know about like the compounding. I just thought it was the one straw, right? So I'm like, this happened. And he gave me a book. He's like, go read this book. It's by Dr. Joe Dispenza, called Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. So I read that book. I read the book. I listened to the book every day, every night. I couldn't, if I wasn't working, I was, or doing things, my kids were gone. So if I wasn't working, I literally was doing something with that book. And then I started doing the meditations every day, every night, every day, every morning, every night. And then I was also doing another mindfulness app as well, but which I love, Sam Harris, Waking Up. And but I started just religiously, doing this, and I started seeing my life starting to change. And then I got very lucky because my therapist suggested that I go to this place. and called Onsite in Nashville. And
Mhm.
it was really just like it was the most amazing experience. But I remember getting there, being in the fishbowl, going there, and then getting there and saying to her, I hate this. Why am I here? This is not Kim. This is not, this is not what I do. This is not how I live my life. I'm in a therapy place, like, and it turned out to be the most amazing place, and all different people there. And basically it was 80 people, and they split you into a group of 10, and for basically 10 hours a day you're with your 9 other people and a
Mm.
therapist, and you are just working through your life, and it's a
Mm.
whole health life program. And it's funny because I literally, like I said to my children at the end, I said, this is someplace that I would want you to go to. Preventative, like I would want everyone. And then 2 weeks ago, my son, who listens to this podcast, or who's a marathon runner, because my son runs marathons, his name is Rich Roll. And he literally was interviewing this hedge fund guy, from Wall Street, who's like this major wealth, management guy, basically tell the audience that he had gone to this place and he had done this program. And my son was like, oh my God, Mom, he did it too. So I started doing that, and then I started going to Dr. Joe's retreats, and this has all been very life changing for me.
So, do you feel like staying in that bubble or the fishbowl, we call it? Um, do you feel like you needed help to get out of there?
Yeah.
Or do you feel like you could have stayed in there longer? Did it feel comfortable?
Oh God, it's hell. Who wants to stay in the fishbowl? It's absolute hell, Ike. I mean, listen, I don't know if you've ever experienced it. I don't know. There are some people that experience it, unfortunately, every day. I
Yes.
think that I hated it. I hated it, and I knew it. I hate.
Mm.
The good thing is that I'm because of what I do, I was very cognizant
Mhm.
of being able to look outside of myself and know that there was something that was really unusual going on, and unusual for me. And I also knew that I needed to do something right away. And I knew that it needed to be done like swiftly and a lot. And
Mhm.
it needed to happen. And I was ready to do anything and everything to get out of that fishbowl.
So you found some help. You realized you needed help, and you started getting some direction and started clearing some of the things that were coming up for you.
Yeah, there's a saying, I'm sure you've heard it, many people say it, whether it's Dr. Joe or Tony or many people, that and Einstein said it with problems. He said, you cannot solve a problem with the same mind you go into the problem with. And Dr. Joe says, when you're in the jar, you cannot see the label on the jar. And, every people have different sayings for the same thing. And the fact is, when you're in the jar or in the fishbowl, you cannot see what's outside. So yes,
Mm,
I really felt like I needed the right guides to help me on this journey.
yeah, I think I can relate to a certain extent because my journey, nothing crazy was happening, Kim. I was in a really good place from a career perspective, family, everything from the outside just seemed okay, but something just wasn't sitting right with me, and like it felt like something was missing, and I couldn't put my finger on what it was. And I felt like I went into this deep cave, and I couldn't show up and operate every single day with that strength and power and courage that I'm known for, and that I've created for myself. And going in that cave, I sold my business, had for 2 decades. Um, Sold everything that I had that I thought was what I wanted of value, and have 3 younger kids and a wife, and I'm like, let's just go travel and just escape. And I feel like that was crazy, but it's what I felt led to do in that moment. So we packed up, and like 6, 7 months later, we just went traveling. And um, as we traveled outside of the US, we spent like a month in each country. And it seemed like everything was going well. And that's when I started feeling that fishbowl experience you're talking about.
Wow.
And it got really, really, really heavy. And when I got to West Africa, Ghana, I don't even know how we chose that country initially, but we got exposed to a lot of things there historically that we weren't even familiar with, and that fish bowl just got even darker and weird.
Yeah.
Um, and then we left, and then I went to India, and India was like what you're talking about, that retreat. A
Right.
friend of mine said, "Hey, go to this Ayurveda place. You know,
Mm.
they'll holistic medicine and the mindset and all that good stuff." And I'm like, I don't know, man. Um, so I listened and I went,
Yeah.
and my family came with me. And this place, there's people there that's sick, like physically going through things.
Right.
But I felt like I was in somewhere where I needed to be. And I spent 2 weeks there just resetting, body work, all the things that I didn't even know that I needed. And that's when I started to see the light outside of the fishbowl and start to readjust back to my true self. Um,
Amazing.
yeah, so help is really important
It
whenever
really
we
is.
find. So, what would you say to someone if they're in their fishbowl and they feel hopeless
Yeah.
or lost? What
You know,
would you say to that person in that moment that's going through something like that?
you know what? First of all, I would say to them that where you feel like you're so alone, you're not. You're not. And I think that, that's one thing. I think that I don't, retrospectively, I think that um, I think that if whatever your higher power is, that the more you connect, the better it gets. And when you're in the fishbowl, though, I'm not necessarily sure that you actually can attach to that. So I'm not, in again, I can say that today when I was in the fishbowl, I really did believe that this was all happening for a reason. I really did. I really believed in the universe, for me, God, whomever, higher power source, that
Mhm.
I really did believe that this was an energy that was happening, and it was not happening to me, right? As Tony says, it was happening for me. It just didn't feel like it. So what I would say to anyone is I would say figure out the right people who to go to, who will not let you um who will not let you ruminate in your stuff, because that's really super important, because what we tend to do is find people who cuddle us and who are like, it's okay, you're this, you're that, but that's really not what we need. It isn't. When you're in the fishbowl, you have to get out of the fishbowl. So you need someone to give you a push to do that. And that means going to a place like you did in India. It means like me going to onsite. It means like reading that book that's going to just all of a sudden you're going to wake up and you're going to be like, oh my gosh, I am a recording. My brain has recorded all this stuff, and now I'm living it, and I think I'm creating something new, but I'm really not. So now what do I do with that? And you literally need someone who's going to say, get out of your stuff, and this is how to do it. This is where to go, and find those places. And just, I think the biggest thing is that that everyone's got their own story, and yet this is it's not abnormal. It's not abnormal.
It's
And
a part of the human journey, huh?
yeah, and you know what? I don't know, Ike, if everyone goes through this. I don't know to
Mm.
a degree. I think they
Mhm.
go through degrees of it. I
Mm.
that there are people who can who they touch on it but they stay out of it, or some people are just in an acute state of it their whole lives, and they don't know. So there's no fishbowl because they're just in this, they're in the haze. They're just in a haze. And, things happen. And so they might go like this in the haze. Like I have friends like that, like they get upset at things, but then they're just rocking along. Nothing is ever, they never have no anxiety because there's always just a teeny bit. So it's like hazy. So I think that that's a different level. I think that there are people like you and me who are probably a little more intense and a little more, which is why we're in the group that we're in, because we're a little more intense. And when we feel things, we feel them big. And it's, and so finding that space to not feel them so largely is it's very important, actually. It's very important to our lives and to our families. And, for you with younger children, it's what you can teach them today. For me with older children, it is what I did that I can rectify, that I can break patterns and I can break trauma patterns through work that I do, through energy that I do, so that my children don't recreate it with themselves and their children. And I talk about it a lot, to the point of with my kids at nausea, to the point where they're like, you got to stop. But it's true.
Yeah. So my kids, they hear the word healing, accountability, like they're just like, ah.
Yeah.
Hey guys, I'd love to invite you to become a member of the Unmasking Effect community. This is a community that we created so that we could get access to exclusive content where we deep dive into deep conversations as a group. Being a part of this community means joining a supportive, growth-oriented environment where individuals are committed to unlocking their true potentials. In this community, we have downloadable resources, worksheets, and guides to help personal and professional growth. This includes exercises on mindset shifts, goal setting, and developing resilience. We have a weekly live QA session where you can ask questions or receive personalized guidance from guests and experts. The whole idea behind this community is to create a supportive environment for us all to thrive. Accountability is a huge part of this process. So we focus on long-term success, because with continuous learning, support, and actionable content, our community aims to foster long-term transformation, not just quick fixes. I'm looking forward to connecting, seeing how I can help you on your own journey. Click the link in the bio, and once you register, you'll be able to log in and see the threads, see the resources, see the schedules of all our upcoming events. So I invite you to become a part of our community today.
Yeah. How old are your kids, Ike?
Yeah, so my eldest, she's 18.
Okay.
The middle one is 16, and a 13-year-old son.
Okay, so they're in that mode, really, of they've almost, they're still obviously in that record mode, but they not quite as much, but still so much of it, And I think that it's so, I think it's so important that the sooner we figure this out, the sooner we can actually recreate new patterns of living. And it took me a long time. So this, all of this sort of happened when I was about 49, 50 years old, before my 50th birthday. But and subsequently, I've been able to do so much work. And I did a TED Talk that was really a lot on this. And the TED Talk it's very interesting what happened. Just talk about such a, for me, source, like a thing. I did the TED Talk. It was the most cathartic thing I've ever done. It was cathartic for my children. It showed them why I had made decisions, because it was like all of a sudden everything became so clear to me while I was doing it. I worked with a guy who's his title is story doula. So he literally pulls the story out of you, and he works with personal stories like this, as well as like top executives on presentations. But working with him was incredibly it was just all amazing and cathartic for me. And then I did the TED Talk, and then TED took it down because I mentioned my real father, and they said to me that they would not, they couldn't keep it up there unless I had a waiver signed that they were not ever going to get sued.
Mm.
I want to tell you, it was like, I'll share it with whoever wants to see it, but I will tell you, it was the best thing that ever happened that it's down, because truly it's sort of like, it is my story, and it's like I was able to take the story and put it on the shelf, and it's there.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm glad that it's not out there for everyone.
Mm-hmm. And you were able to get it out of you as well.
100%, which also did, I think, really, really break some trauma patterns in my family lineage.
Amazing, Kim.
Yeah.
That definitely takes a lot of bravery, and to stand on a stage and deliver that's very brave.
It was
Very
good.
brave.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
So what would you say in retrospect, like now you're out of the fishbowl, or let's call it the full-time fishbowl, and
Yeah.
you're where you are right now. What would you say is one thing you've learned about yourself?
I am really just pure energy and love. That is what I know about myself. And that's all I want to give to other people, truly. And I've learned that the work is every day, every day. And it's such a reminder every single day. And I've learned that I need it. I love it. And it's how I love my life, is the work. And we are so not a reality. Do you know what I mean? There's so much more in us and around us. And you can look at, if someone's a religious person, they can look at their own, no matter what religion they are, they can find things. If they're not a religious person, if they look outside and they see a tree growing and they believe that, that grew from somewhere, that's all they have to believe in. There's life, there's things around us. And we are the creators. We are creators. So every day I believe, and I've learned this to the nth degree, that I get to create my life.
Awesome. Tell me a little bit about your work. You mentioned work, your daily work.
Yeah, so I love my work. It's definitely an extension. My work has to do with leadership, and has to do with its leadership development. And it is truly transformational, because I really believe that every single person, first of all, we're all leaders, no matter what our title is. That's the first thing. That we go into our jobs, and the majority of people go into a job and they're taught a skill, and then they get better at it, and then they're promoted, and then they're supposed to not only know their skill, but then now they're supposed to motivate and drive the business by driving other people, and collaborating and doing all these things and giving feedback. And none of those skills are actually learned, but we're expected to know that because you have a title now. And I think that most people, like a lot of people, are living in that survival, mode of like, let's go to work, let's do our thing. And let me be good at my job, and I'm proving myself, and I'm climbing a ladder, but I've got so much work. So that's where they're living. I deal with them every day. And my whole work is focused on giving them the skills so that they can lead better, and they can impact their own lives, and they impact everyone around us. I think one of the things that people don't realize is that we're put in a situation, we're working with people we don't necessarily know, and sometimes we don't necessarily jive with. Mm-hmm. And that person, especially if I'm their boss, that person goes home and basically treats and does things around them that I have put on them that day. So if I'm a good leader and they go home and they're happy and fulfilled, then they will create that generally in their home lives. And if they go home and they feel like they've just been mistreated all day, then they're not going to be their best selves at home. And so I really believe that people we don't realize the impact that we play on every single person around us. And my goal in our business, so my company is called ID360, and it is like your identity 360, all of inside and out. And we have the ability to give people these skills they'll still make the money. They'll make the money and they'll be happier and they'll be nicer and they'll live in joy, and they will treat people better, and then they will be able to then take that to their homes and treat their families better. And I feel like, again, it's like a cycle, and a lot of it has to do with being able to build the skills to do that are not inherent.
Yeah, definitely. How long have you been doing that work, Kim?
32 years.
Oh, wow.
It's amazing. I really am very lucky. We have many clients who have started with us and are still with us. And we have new things launching actually in the next month and so that's exciting. And yeah, you got to keep it fresh and going and doing new things, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Do you have a daily ritual, Kim?
Oh my gosh, for sure. So I literally wake up, my alarm goes off. I immediately, so I say a prayer, I say something, and then I think about 3 things that have happened. And this is all because of like science and studies that have been done. I think of 3 very, very, very specific things that have happened in the last 24 hours that I'm grateful for. So I have to rack my brain, which gets our brain thinking and going in a process of looking for goodness. And looking for positivity and growth mindset. So I'm like, oh yeah, I had a conversation with tomorrow, Ike. I'll be like, I had a conversation with Ike. That was so great. I'm so grateful for that. And so I do that. And then I get out of bed and I meditate. And then after I meditate, I work out. And then I get to work. Mm-hmm. That's my daily ritual.
How do you close your day?
If I have time, meaning like I'm very into tracking my sleep. So, and so I'm really trying to I'm wearing my Oura ring to make sure that I'm actually getting sleep, because, as we grow younger, I want to keep growing younger. And so I want, if I've left time, based on my schedule or meetings or dinners or whatever I have, I will meditate. I will get ready for bed, and I have a very special place wherever I am, I make a place. Wherever I am, I could be in a hotel room, I make a place, and I meditate. Sometimes it's for 10 minutes, sometimes it'll be for 30 minutes. Mm-hmm. And then when I go to sleep, I do a few things. Sometimes I'll listen. Sometimes I listen to my own, I record my own affirmations and I listen to them on repeat. And one of the things, that was Bruce Lipton, one of the things that I learned from him is that as you go to bed, you go into that theta state. So you go down, down, down. And as you're going, your subconscious is recording. So I'll listen to myself. Or I listen to someone else. So I'll find something, like there are some people that I really like on YouTube that I listen to. I love Neville Goddard. I listen to a lot of that. I listen to, I am sometimes Dr. Joe, just different affirmations. And then when I wake up, like it'll go off, and then I have an app that actually I got, from Tony's world, called Newcom. And it's all about the vibration and the music and the frequencies. Mm-hmm. So then I just put that on, and I like the rain. And the thing is, you're hearing rain, but your subconscious is actually filled with a frequency to help you sleep. So I put that on for the whole night.
Yeah, that's really amazing. Yeah, I've found how I start my day and how I end my day is very important. And that's where I spend a lot of focus and intention.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
The best piece of advice, gosh, I would have to say it would probably be from one of our guides, and that is Tony. And I would say that that our emotions create the quality of our life. And I think that that's probably the best advice, because I want the quality of my life to look very joyous. And so choosing your emotions, being aware of your emotions, being aware of my emotions is very, very important. In fact, even more now than ever, this is like an uber focus for me, that if I feel any type of feeling that doesn't feel joy, or flow, or someone upsets me, I say to myself, you're disconnected from source. What's going on? And I just think about energy of source for me. Just think of energy of source, and I'm like, I'm source, I'm energy. That's source. They're a message. They're source. And I just that advice, the advice, that's how it materializes for me. So I take that advice and I say, change the emotion, change the energy, change what I need to change
Mm-hmm.
in order to lead the quality of life that I am striving for every moment. Like, we were not intended to come here and be stressed out. It was not, the intent. I know for sure that was not the intention for us to live these lives of shame and guilt. Like, that's a man-made product. That is not a God product. So I'm not into it, and I'm going to get rid of it.
Yeah, I love it. Beautiful. So, what would you say to someone if they're in the space of fear, anxiety, depression, um, those negative feelings, so to speak? Like, what are one or two things that they can do to somewhat navigate or readjust back to source, to the divine highway, I'll call it?
You know what I would say really truly is that there are some there's work to be done. And it's not just going to happen overnight. And it's a constant reminder. And that's what I would say to them. I would say, get on the journey, brother, or sister. That's what I would say. I'd say it's time. So what does that look like? And for me, it's little things, it's looking at my feet and saying, I'm here right now. I'm right here right now. And it's breathing. And it's like saying, what am I breathing in? Intention, intention, intention. What's my intention? And what am I grateful for? Over and over and over again. It's literally like, that's what I would say to someone. I would say, how do you feel? And how do you want to feel? I'm not telling them they're choosing it. I'm saying, if you could choose, do you like what you're feeling? Do you feel enough pain to get out of it? And if they feel enough pain, then they might do the work. Or if they're just growth-oriented people, they might start the work and then continue it, like so many of our tribe. But for people who are really suffering, I would say, and I don't want to listen. I'm not a therapist, so I'm just going to say this from my perspective. I really truly believe that there are medicines that can help you, but I don't believe that they solve the issue. I believe that they are just a little bit of a Band-Aid, in the sense that the minute something happens, you're still going to feel those feelings, and you have to figure out how to get past that. And no medicine, unless you're just drugging yourself to the nth degree, is going to take care of it. And so I'm not a big believer in that. And I was on antidepressants for years, and I realized this is not helping me. And it's not helping me because it doesn't take away what happened. So I have to get rid of the emotions that go with what happened,
Beautiful, beautiful.
So that's what I would say. And that's so my opinion. So I don't want anyone who's like, no drugs saved my life, because I'm sure that there are,
Yeah.
but I can tell you, after especially being so involved in Dr. Joe Dispenza and all of his research, and what they're finding that, with 66 diseases, including PTSD, including depression, including Alzheimer's, including cancer, that there's a lot that is being healed by the mind, and about through other ways other than medicine. So that's just my belief.
Oh, perfect. Thank you, Kim. What's next for you?
What's next for me? Oh my gosh.
Is there another reinvention on the horizon for you?
Always, every day I get to make a choice of who shows up and how to be better and what I want to look like and feel like. And, you know what the biggest reinvention for me really, Ike, is that there is no thing and no person that is going to make me my best person. No thing, no person, no other thing, nothing outside of me. And so that is my focus, that I'm focusing very much on having this joy no matter what's happening around me and in my life, and especially getting rid of expectations of how things should be, things should have been, the people I should have been with, the person that I want to my life, that why aren't I, or why shouldn't I? And, but really focusing on, I know we hear it all the time, God, until you get it, you just don't get it. And that is the loving yourself part. And truly, I believe that loving ourselves is really knowing that we're just an extension of source. So, that's the reinvention every day, while I get to do my work and have a great business and do that and something purposeful with that, and give back as much as I can.
Yeah, that's awesome. So how do you define abundance?
Oh my gosh, abundance. Abundance is looking outside your window and being grateful. It's abundance is such gratitude for everything, just being so thankful, not wishing and not wanting, for all the things that actually could be fun, and they are fun, but they don't really matter. And that's how I define it. And by the way, it's not that I don't have to remind myself of that every day, especially when I want to go do, etc., whatever I want to do. And that costs money, and it's this and it's that. And I'm like, wait, I need to make more. And, all those things. I have to remind myself that, wait, you're living in pure abundance. Look around. And part of that is that for me, I'm healthy, and that is abundant, and this phone call is abundance, or this webinar, whatever we're on. Anyway, that's how I define it. Yeah.
Yeah, this is awesome. Listen, Kim, I'm so happy I pressed record. You've clearly done the work and continue to do the work. And I take my hat off for you. Like, I respect growth. I love growth. I am growth. So I admire growth, and I see your work just like gleaming. So it's awesome.
Thanks.
I hope you guys really enjoyed this episode with Kim. And more than enjoying it, I hope you learned something that is applicable in your own life. Because quite frankly, we're here to reinvent, realign, recreate. And I hope her experience and what she shared has an impact on you and your reinvention and your recreation. So thank you for being here. As we continue to unmask, we do this work together. We have a community linked in the bio. Go ahead and check it out. See if it aligns with you. And I'm grateful. Thank you. Peace.